What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the neighborhood, and thank you for spending part of your day with us today. If you're a returning listener, thank you and welcome back. And if this happens to be your first episode, thank you and welcome to the show. On this episode, we're talking about Marvel's Spider-Man. Welcome to the podcast where two longtime friends and sometimes a guest talk about their favorite games from the perspective of an average player. My name is Andrew Kimball.
And I'm Dylan Wren, and we are your friendly neighborhood gamers.
Marvel's Spider-Man is a 2018 action-adventure game developed by Insomniac Games and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. Based on the Marvel Comics character Spider-Man, it tells an original narrative that is inspired by the long-running comic book mythology, while also drawing from various adaptations in other media. Gameplay is presented from the third-person perspective with a primary focus on Spider-Man's traversal and combat abilities. Spider-Man can freely move around New York City, interacting with characters, undertaking missions, and unlocking new gadgets and suits by progressing through the main story or completing tasks. Outside the story, the player is able to complete side missions to unlock additional content and collectible items. Combat focuses on chaining attacks together and using the environment and webs to incapacitate numerous foes while avoiding damage. Development of Marvel's Spider-Man, the first licensed game by Insomniac in its then 22-year history, began in 2014 and took approximately 4 years. Insomniac was given the choice of using any character from Marvel's catalog to work on. Spider-Man was chosen both for his appeal to the employees and the similarities in traversal gameplay to their previous game, Sunset Overdrive, which more people should have played. The game design took inspiration from the history of Spider-Man across all media, but Marvel Comics and Insomniac wanted to tell an original story that was not linked to an existing property, creating a unique universe known as Earth 1048 that has since appeared in novels, merchandise, and comics. Now, to do this episode justice, I had to bring the wait for it guys back. Phil joined us on Level Playing Field when we did our Spider-Man and Miles Morales episodes, so only felt right to have him back for this one. How's it going, Phil?
It's going well. That's why I was so confused when you reached out. I was like, didn't we do that?
It's like deja vu.
What year is it? No. Super happy to be back, especially on the cusp of the sequel. I'm very excited. I took off Friday, for very important reasons.
Yeah.
And excited to reminisce about the first one and how we feel about it.
Yeah, and I think that was your first appearance on Level Playing Field, and so it's kind of like in the infancy of us collaborating and stuff, and so I learned after that Eric is a huge Spider-Man fan, and so I had to rectify not having him on the original episode on that show and bring him on for this one. So how's it going, Eric?
It's going good. Yes, I am satisfied that we were finally able to make this happen. It's going to be worth the wait. Better late than never, I guess.
I like the energy you're bringing into this episode. Yes.
That's what I'm here for.
Yes, so very excited to dive into this one. Just a little bit about the structure of this episode, similar to how we've been doing most of our deep dive episodes recently. We're going to talk spoiler-free for the first half of the conversation. We're going to keep our thoughts primarily, I guess it'll be story stuff, but keep that top level, and then there will be a big spoiler warning, a spoiler wall, and then we will move into full spoiler talk. We'll have timestamps for all of that. If you want to skip past it and hear our verdicts, there will be timestamps for that as well. With all that being said, I figure a good place to start would be our history with what is now a series. We're talking about the first game here, but like Phil, you referenced, the sequel will just barely be out when this episode drops. We're recording before it comes out. And then there was Miles Morales in between, which is kind of like, I don't know, the Lion King 1.5 of the series. It's like a 0.5 kind of sequel. I mean, that's not to discredit it. I still think it's an incredible game, but it was a shorter experience and all that comes with it. But I wanted to get our history with these games. And maybe, a little bit about the character if you want to dive into that as well. But Eric, since you were not around on the previous episode that we keep referencing, why don't you start? Kick us off.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, Spider-Man has been a casual experience gaming-wise for me. I remember playing some of those kind of arcadey games and really looking at a lot of games that have come out. I don't think I ever really played any all the way through. I can remember certain ones I had interest in that I never got around to, like Web of Shadows. And I think I played a little bit of Shattered Dimensions, but it was one of those games that I never planned on like finishing. Like it just didn't grip me. So there's also a lack of Insomniac games experience here, because a lot of the games that they had kind of pumping out, I didn't really play for the most part up until this. And even like, Sunset Overdrive, for example, on the Xbox, also a game I missed out on. So not only Spider-Man, but the actual Insomniac gaming experience is not something I'm well versed in prior to Spider-Man.
Phil, how about you?
Yeah, same thing as far as like the, like Eric just mentioned, the Shattered Dimensions games, that whole series. I knew they were really popular because I was working at GameStop at the time. And honestly, whenever you throw the Spider-Man IP on a box, it's going to sell relatively well, just because, kids are going to be asking for it. But I never dove into those. Spider-Man 2, like on the Xbox, like the I think the 360, or maybe it was the original Xbox, actually, with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. That one was obviously the one that people still go back to. So Sunset Overdrive, like knowing that the people that were in charge of that game were going to be heading up this, I was super excited. Sunset Overdrive is so good, and I definitely need to go back and revisit it. It's in my Xbox library, just waiting for me to go through and play again. And not to turn this into a Sunset Overdrive episode, but it just transitioned so easily when you get into the Spider-Man game. And I just remember seeing that initial trailer and knowing that Insomniac and Sony were going to be at the helm of it, and then you get like the Miles Morales reveal at the end of it. Like, it was really cool. It brought you back to like a day. Remember, like I feel like we don't get really excited over video game trailers as much as we used to, and maybe that's just because we're getting older. But also everything leaks now, so I think seeing that trailer really kind of brought the hype back up, and also being in an age where we do have the Arkham games and there are really, really good superhero games. I think knowing that this was going to be good, so just and then finally getting your hands on it, and it's one of the few games where I was totally eager to jump right back into it, even though I had already played it on the PS4. I was like, yeah, I'm absolutely going to do this again.
Yeah, I did revisit Sunset Overdrive after playing this Spider-Man game. And you can definitely see kind of the trajectory, the movement and stuff. You can see the similarities where they were headed, but just being able to use Spider-Man's tool set versus, what they were kind of just making up out of thin air for Sunset Overdrive, I think just was that final little, cherry on top to make the movement in this game what it was. Dylan?
Yep.
What about you?
I definitely played Spider-Man 2 back in the day. I don't know if I owned it or rented it a bunch, but I played it on the GameCube for sure.
Yeah.
I remember playing a lot of that game, so I feel like I must have owned it, or at the very least rented it enough that I should have just gone ahead and like owned it.
Yeah.
And so I know I played that one a bunch. I did not play any of the like Web of Shadows or Shattered Dimensions or all of these other ones that you guys have been listing off. I feel like I maybe played a little bit of one that was tied into the Amazing Spider-Man movies that were coming out. I feel like there was a game related.
There were two of them that came out, yeah.
I was like, I feel like I played something on the 360, and I think it was that game. I don't really remember it. I don't remember it being bad. It was a long time ago. And then I think the only other games that have had like Spider-Man in them have been like Marvel Snap and like Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. So that is my Marvel Spider-Man experience. And so I bought Andrew's PS4 when he upgraded to a PS5. And Spider-Man was one of the games that came with his PS4 when it came to me. and it has sat on my shelf for like 3 years, and I finally ejected Bloodborne from the PlayStation 4 and inserted Spider-Man into it, and have played through it. So yeah, it's a fun game. I don't feel like I know Spider-Man as well as the rest of you three. So because there was a lot in this game that I was just kind of going through, like, who is this? What's going on? Wait, who? Yeah. I thought I knew Spider-Man, and it turns out I did not. So
I think that's completely fair. I mean, Spider-Man, the one thing about him is he's got like the rogue galleries of villains, you know.
You weren't familiar with Screwball?
What do you mean?
no.
Why
no.
are we even doing this?
Right?
All
How can we work in these
all
conditions?
integrity and credibility lost.
Well, because I like went into it and I was like, okay, I've seen like all of the Tobey Maguire movies. I've seen all of the Andrew Garfield movies. I've seen one of the
Tom Holland
movies, and I've seen none of the animated Spider-Man Miles Morales movies. And so
God, what's happening?
That does feel like a crime.
yeah.
It's like a confession all of a sudden. Like, what's happening?
But like I went into it and I was like, oh, okay, I'm pretty familiar with like Marvel. And then they start throwing these villains in. I'm like, who is Shocker? What is this?
It might be better that he doesn't watch the Spider-Verse movies. I think it
Might be too
might
much.
be too
Yeah.
much. There's a dinosaur in a Spider-Man outfit.
Yeah. Well, and there was like Spider-Man 2099 or whatever, and I thought that was just like an alternate like costume that Tobey Maguire wore or something, and then turns
Tobey
out it's
Maguire.
like it's
Peter
just a totally
Parker.
different whatever. Same thing, right? So
What
yeah.
have we done?
yeah, it was
What's happening?
apparently he's a different character.
Yes, he's a different Spider-Man. Yes.
There's
Hence-
a pig that's Spider-Man too. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Okay, now
Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham. Let's address him by name.
John Mulaney.
Wow. So for me, Spider-Man is like one of my favorite characters and Marvel properties. I grew up scattered watching the like animated show, and then I played Spider-Man for the N64 / PlayStation at like friends' houses. I played Spider-Man, the first Tobey Maguire game. I played a ton of Spider-Man 2. I played Spider-Man 3. I played Ultimate Spider-Man. I played Spider-Man Web of Shadows. I played Shattered Dimensions. I played Edge of Time. I played the Amazing Spider-Man game. I don't think I played the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I played, and then I think after all of those, coming close to like the Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2, that was kind of where I started to fall off of these games, because they were all kind of just trying to imitate Spider-Man 2 from back in the day and not doing it as well. I didn't have a PlayStation, but I saw that trailer that you're talking about, Phil, for this Spider-Man game, and I was like, what? Are they making a good Spider-Man game? Is this going to be like a good Spider-Man game? And then I kind of lost track of it for a while, and then like the week of its release, it started, they started pushing the promotional stuff a lot more, and I was seeing trailers, and then the reviews dropped, and I watched some gameplay, and it was over. I went to Walmart that night and bought a PlayStation 4 and bought the game. And when I was booting it up and setting up my PlayStation account and everything for the first time, I felt like that kid at Christmas. It was that giddy feeling. And then as soon as I started swinging through the city with the way that they have the movement in this game, yeah, it was all over. It was worth, I mean, it's hard to say it was worth all the money, but it was worth all the money. So it was the game that got me to finally cross into PlayStation territory. And I've really enjoyed this series so far, and I'm very much looking forward to the Spider-Man 2, which by the time you're listening to this, who knows how many hours I'll be into it at this point. But
I'm going to play all day Friday. I can't wait.
I know I have a half day Friday, and so it's going to be I say it's going to be everything I'm going to be doing because Mario also comes out that day, and I think like the family wants to play that one, so we may do some Mario time and then shift over to Spider-Man when it's me time. Who knows? We'll see how it breaks down, but I'm going to be playing a lot of Spider-Man. So we've mentioned the traversal a lot, just kind of in passing already. But I think that is probably one of the, if not the standout mechanic of this game. Just right out of the gate, how good it feels and how fluid and fast and the classic IGN meme of you really feel like Spider-Man. But it was true in this case, and I'm kind of curious to get your guys' takes on that. I think one of the things for me that made it so exciting was that they didn't hide a lot of the fun behind a skill tree or leveling up or any of that kind of stuff, gaining abilities. Like as soon as you booted up the game, you were flying around the city. It might take a few minutes to get a grip on the controls or whatever, but they're not super complex. Like some of the Spider-Man games in the past, you would do like a right trigger, then a left trigger to try to imitate both hands and stuff like that. Insomniac, I mean, I think it's just in their wheelhouse with some of the Ratchet and Clank and obviously Sunset Overdrive, like we've talked about, momentum and movement. But man, they knocked it out of the park with this one. So what did you guys think of the traversal?
Yeah, I mean, with any Spider-Man game, if you don't get that down, you're pretty much dead on arrival. So I'm interested to see what you thought, Andrew, about the traversals and the traversal and like all the Into the Spider-Verse, but that section of Spider-Man games that came out in the PS3 and the 360. Shattered Dimensions, all that stuff, because I know I heard because I've watched videos on them and I know a lot of the reviewers are like it's okay, but you really have, everyone had been trying to imitate Spider-Man 2 and it just hadn't happened yet. I mean, even to go back to an even more recent example, I've been revisiting the Marvel's Avengers game just because one, it was like $3. And also all the stuff is like unlocked now, so they give you everything for free. So I just bought it before it was removed from the store. And just moving around as Spider-Man and that is terrible. I don't know how they messed that up. I have no idea how they got it so bad when there was already like an example of how to do it right there. So,
and that was their huge Sony brag too.
Right,
like, hey, we've got Spider-Man.
And like, no,
but you have to wait like a year to play as him, and then he's not going to be that good.
And then he also doesn't really have his own like story missions that are. It was a weird time. Again, not to talk about Marvel's Avengers too much, but like you said, to be able to just jump right into it, and that's a good example because, when it first originally came out a few years ago, my daughter still wasn't necessarily playing a lot of games. She plays a lot more now, but she just liked to swing around the city. She would swing to missions for me, because she just enjoyed doing it. So I think that's a big thing. So yeah, if you don't nail that, then you're, like I said, you're pretty much dead on arrival. So thank goodness they got that down.
Yeah, I think with Spider-Man, like, I've been such a big fan of the character for so long, and obviously going into film and even a little bit of comics, but gaming always eluded me for that kind of reason. Like, I never felt a game captured really what it was to be Spider-Man. And in this game, there's not a moment really that I can think of where I felt out of the world. So like whenever I was web swinging, I never felt like, oh, that wasn't realistic, or I shouldn't have been able to make that swing. It just felt natural. And I think to get that right is such a huge testament to the developers, obviously, but I mean, an absolute home run, because that's the thing you have to get down. I'm going to probably bring it up in combat, but Batman and the Arkham games, the combat was the thing. The sweet spot you had to get right. You had to be able to really maneuver as Batman, and even some of like the stealth stuff that was going on there. They really had to nail that for that character. The web swinging was the home run that they had to hit for Spider-Man. And again, never felt out of the immersion. And then you pick it up in Miles Morales. Doesn't get any less boring. I'm going to pick it up in Spider-Man 2. I'm excited. They're going to add the glide feature.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much I'm going to use that. Maybe I'll love it more, but I just can't imagine doing anything other than web swinging to get where I need to go. It's the first game, I guess, that I would say I didn't want to fast travel in.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what I was going to bring up too, is like they unlocked that fast travel mechanic pretty early on. They're like, oh, go to Peter's apartment. And I was like, I mean, I will, because you're forcing me to use this right now. And I'll see the cool little cutscene of like Spider-Man on the subway or whatever. And then I was like, what a useless feature to put in this game. Like, why would I ever decide to use fast travel when I could literally swing around the city as Spider-Man? And, I think from just like a technical standpoint, a gameplay fun standpoint, like Manhattan feels the right size, that you're never far enough away from anything that's going on that you're trying to get to, that it, like, the maximum amount of time that you're going to be swinging around a Spider-Man if you're going towards a mission is like, what, a couple minutes, like, so it never felt like it was like, like sometimes in GTA you get a mission and it's like, well, here's a 15-minute drive to like the north part of the map from LA or whatever. And it's like, versus Spider-Man where it's like, yep, I'll just kind of zip over here with my web swinging. And, it never, to me, there was never a point where I was like, I don't feel like making this trek over to the mission. Let me use fast travel, So, and I think that just speaks to how good the traversal is in this game.
Yeah. Eric, you mentioned something about, not ever having your immersion broken and always kind of feeling like you are the character. Did you feel like that when you were sneaking around as Mary Jane?
Okay.
I was immediately thinking about that.
I didn't feel out of the immersion during the web swinging, specifically. The Mary Jane stuff.
God, I hope that's not back.
It is. You definitely have to do it again. Apparently, it's a little bit more engaging and a little bit more necessary to the story from the early reviews I've read. But again, not to skip too ahead to the second game, I can't imagine it's going to be much better than what we got, even just some slight enhancements. I really feel like that needs to be taken out completely.
Just a Mary Jane DLC.
It's going to be the Atreus to God of War for a lot of us. So ugh. I know how most of us feel in here about Atreus, so thought it'd be a good reference.
Yeah, I think they do it. I mean, I know why they do it. They do it to kind of like slow things down, give you like a breather from like the action and all that. But yeah, I didn't really hate them my first time playing through the game. I still hate is still a strong word, but like on replays, they're always the parts that I kind of dread going into that. I do like in the remaster, which is the most recent version I played, they remastered it for PlayStation 5, and other than completely ruining Peter Parker's face, I like a lot of the stuff that they did to the game, and one of those things was letting you just skip like the science puzzles and the hacking puzzles and stuff like that. Like you could sit there and work them out and do that if that's something you enjoy, but Insomniac seems to be a very kind of player focused developer where they just want you to be having fun. So if you don't want to do this little science puzzle, go ahead, skip it. It's not, you're not going to lock yourself out of anything or miss an achievement or anything like that, or a trophy, I guess. So I like those kind of features because that was the other thing alongside the like stealth sections in this first game that people kind of didn't love were those science mini games. What did you guys think of those?
Yeah, being able to skip those was fantastic. Again, just taking away time from what you have done so well was always baffling. So like the swinging and the combat is excellent. Why are you taking me away from that? Like you said, the Mary Jane portions, I understand why, those are in, take a breather, set up the next portion of the story. But like all of that, and I was like, I don't want to collect cloud samples, for or pollution samples, whatever they were. So even though there is swinging in that, but yeah, a lot of that stuff I just found unnecessary.
I don't even remember it, to be completely honest. So it wasn't something that I took a lot of positive things away from doing. If anything, I feel like there was definitely for that first Spider-Man, I feel like I did this more for Miles Morales when I played it. For the original Spider-Man on PS4, I was so satisfied with like the story and everything. Once I put it down, I didn't pick it up, but that's not anything against the game. It's just I was like, that was a great experience. I think I'm done. Where normally in a lot of games, I like to kind of explore afterwards to kind of get my money's worth. I felt good afterwards. So I feel like a lot of the extra stuff outside of the main story, for the first game anyway, I really missed out on. Unlike Miles Morales and probably Spider-Man 2, I planned on exploring a lot more in those games.
Didn't some of those require math too? So like that was a double.
Yeah, not great at it. I can't read.
Reading and math? Oh,
Reading
man.
and math, not Eric's strong point.
Yeah. Yeah, like I didn't mind them the first time through. If I were to go back and replay this game, like do a New Game Plus run, or if I, get a PlayStation 5 and the remastered version, I probably would not do like the puzzles again. Like they were fine for what it was worth, but it was like you said, Andrew, I think they were completely optional anyway, really, for the most part. There were like maybe a couple of times where it like forced you to kind of do like the pipe dream puzzle or the match the lines puzzle or whatever.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then the Mary Jane and Miles sections, maybe it was because I've heard like, I'm coming to this game 5 years late, right? Maybe it was because I've heard such terrible things about those sections, but like there were a lot less of them than I was expecting, and they were a whole lot shorter than I was expecting. And like the only one to me that felt like it dragged on was one that's kind of like in the third act of the game. And that one was the one that felt to me appropriate for the fact that it dragged on didn't bother me, because it was like, oh shoot, like I'm discovering all of this stuff about this world and this story. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that particular part in the back half of the episode where we talk about spoilers.
Yeah.
Maybe it was my expectations were a whole lot different than the three of you coming into it, because I've had 5 years of gamers being like, haha, those Mary Jane sections were terrible. Am I right? So
Yeah, I think like hyperbole probably comes into play here a little bit too, and some exaggeration, because nothing in the game is like bad. It's not broken. It's not egregious, but it's just things that pull you away from the fun of being Spider-Man. I do think that, later in the game, there is a section where you are Mary Jane, but you're kind of telling Spider-Man where to go, and he's like dropping thugs around you and stuff. And that was a cool way to do it. Most of the times it was just kind of like, generic stealth, which they did it fine, but in a game that had so many good things going for it while you're playing as Spider-Man, it was like, oh, now we have to kind of take a break from all that fun and just do this okay thing.
Yeah.
It took me so long to get through the game again because I kept reloading it and forgetting I was at the motorcycle club part with Mary Jane. So I would boot it up and be like, I don't want to do this right now. And I just shut it back off because I wasn't in the mindset to redo that at the moment. So.
So we've mentioned this a couple times too, and it kind of goes hand in hand with traversal and the movement, but the combat in this game. So another thing we've talked about a little bit is the Arkham games. I think it borrowed some of the mechanics from that. You've got like a counter system. It's very fast paced with Spider-Man kind of being able to bounce between enemies to keep a combo going. And so a lot of that kind of felt like it was inspired from Arkham, and I guess the gadgets too, to a certain extent. But I think it really, again, they leaned into what makes Spider-Man great. There's a lot of verticality. There's a lot of just the way it looks, how acrobatic he is. And then being able to incorporate the web to swing stuff around or stick people to walls or take their weapons away and things like that. And they also did their version of the like Predator missions, the stealth sections, which were basically ripped from Arkham. Like you would perch and you would pull people up to the lamppost and stuff like that. But it made sense too for the character, but I always kind of felt like that was a little bit less Spider-Man's approach typically. Like normally he's not super stealthy, so but I thought those sections were fun. What did you guys think about the combat?
I definitely liked it. When I mentioned Batman and Arkham, they had to get the combat right. Spider-Man, they had to get the traversal right. The combat's important, though, and I gotta say, it was good. Not great, but definitely good. And not by a large margin, too, that good to great. Like, Arkham is really strong. One of the best combat games that I've had fun with, but I like stuff like that. Like, countering is a lot of fun to me. I used to love playing Assassin's Creed for that reason. So another similar game that I would also say is a smidge above what we experienced in the 2018 Spider-Man. But then we get a couple years down the road, Miles Morales comes out, and you get a couple of additional wrinkles. So I do want to put that little asterisk that there was a lot of room for improvement, and I don't think they have that far to go to get to great, because those little additions they made in that game, I thought made the combat feel so much more fun. And if they continue in that direction, I mean, easily they've got both the traversal and the combat down. All they got to get right is the story, and you might have a SSS tier game on your hands here. So that's definitely my take on it.
Just wait, dude. Symbiote powers.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, I mean, yeah, I really enjoy the combat. You know, we've already thought about Batman, and for me, any game like this where, you know, where there's a counter button and it just makes it feel like, you know, you're making these split-second decisions and just seamlessly moving into combat. Andrew and Eric know that I'm not good at parrying and blocking. So like any game like this, that makes it like a little bit easier. And not to say that it's like totally easy, but what makes it, it simplifies it. That's what I'll say. It's always going to be big with me, but yeah, I'm with Eric. Like they are just like a couple things away from making it perfect, but still incredibly enjoyable. So, but yeah, for somebody like me who sometimes struggles with combat in other games, it's always a big plus for me.
Yeah, it felt good to me overall. I think it got better as you unlocked more. Like there were a couple of abilities I think that I unlocked throughout that made it feel better. Like I can't remember if you start with the ability to like pull guns out of people's hands or not. I know you don't have the ability to pull like the bigger guns out of people's hands until you unlock it. But there were a couple of things like that like early on felt kind of like weird because I hadn't unlocked them in like the skill tree or whatever. I do think that like the Arkham Shadow of Mordor type of combat is I still prefer that, because there were definitely some times where I felt myself just swinging at air as Spider-Man, because like there was an enemy there and like I wanted to attack him, but like I wasn't like on the correct pixel for Spider-Man to understand that I wanted to attack him. Whereas like Shadow of War and Batman, it is kind of more of like it is auto putting you in front of like Batman is doing whatever he needs to get in front of that villain and let you beat on him,
whether it looks realistic or not.
Yeah.
He would like ballerina dance. It's like
exactly.
a couple times to get to the person, but it would be super cool.
He does move a little unlike a Dark Knight Batman.
He would make up so much distance, but I love that about that game.
Yes.
And it's funny, Dylan, that you mentioned that, because I'm now realizing how many times I would go to web a barrel or something and it would just miss my intended
and he's
target.
Just like Kss, and it's like, oh,
I guess I wasn't that.
Oh, yep. And there were definitely some times where I'd like be attempting like because most combat situations you get in, it gives you like 2 secondary objectives, and it's like, you know, do a web throw or do a this or do a that. And so like some of the times I'd be trying to like do that, and it would just be like, nope, you can't. You're not doing that to this guy right now. It's like you were arbitrarily too close to the ground, and so you are not doing a web throw from the air. So, but overall, I did have a lot of fun with it. I did like it. And once I got the hang of the PlayStation's weird buttons, I was able to to do all right.
Yeah, I just really liked how, like Phil said, it was simple enough that you could kind of pick up on it quickly, but it always looked, you know, unless there were those things you guys are talking about where you whiffed a little bit or whatever. But if it was going off like it was supposed to, it just looks so stylish. And all the finishers, just like the way they transitioned and the like slow-mo effects they would use and all of that. And I do think they improved it in Miles. And I'm very excited to see what they do in Spider-Man 2, because we're going to have the symbiote powers, and we're going to have both Spider-Men, and Miles with his set of powers is a lot of fun to play as. So yeah, but I think that, like I said, they were inspired by the Arkham games, and then they tweaked it a little bit to fit the character, and I think it worked pretty well. Something else this game is known for: something that's a big deal, and that they're after like post launch they were adding in just more and more and more of these is the suits. So the game has just a bunch of awesome and some ridiculous and some like, meme type costumes for Spider-Man. And the ones that you will unlock throughout the campaign will also unlock some abilities, but you don't have to wear that specific suit to use that ability, which I really appreciated. Once you had the ability unlocked, you could just use it with whatever suit. Then post-launch, people liked the suits so much they were clamoring for, the Tobey Maguire suit, and they were clamoring for the Andrew Garfield suit, and they were, all these different ones. And so they released a lot of those as free DLC, which was really cool to see. I'm curious, I guess maybe we'll go around. What suits did you play the most in? What were your kind of go-to suits? Dylan, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah. So my go-to suit was definitely the 90s animated cartoon Spider-Man suit. That was basically what I rocked the entire game. I wasn't a huge fan of the like Insomniac Spider-Man suit, mostly because of the weird like
the white
part on his feet. Like the white Spider-Man was fine, but the like it on like the bottom of his shoes was just like I don't like this.
Interesting.
Your shoes, you're in the streets of New York. Don't wear white soles on your shoes. They're just going to get so gross and dirty. But I mostly rocked the 90s Spider-Man. I did a little bit of like whatever suit you get for completing all of Black Cat's missions. I think like she gives you a suit. But yeah, it was just like mostly the 90s Spider-Man, a little bit of Tobey Maguire, a little bit of that Black Cat suit, but pretty much always the 90s Spider-Man.
Nice. Eric, how about you?
Yeah, I think that's called the vintage suit. So I would also second that. The moment I was able to play that, it felt so good. And again, this also is just kind of like the style I like, because then I did the same thing where I got Miles' original kind of outfit in the Miles game. I like the way they blended that into the world with the animation, and just it was still so fluid. It looked so cool. So that was my number one go-to. I'd probably say, though, a close second was the Stark suit, which I really liked in this game quite a bit. And then I have a personal attachment to the Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield suit. So that's something that was probably like a third. And I would really go to vintage, but those other two I'd kind of interchange. The Insomniac design's fine. There's a lot of white just in general, so it's a little just kind of overwhelming.
Dirty.
It's a little overwhelming, honestly, of a suit. But I don't hate it.
And what about you, Phil?
For me, I kind of did something where whenever I knew a big cutscene was coming, I'd go back to the primary suit, the one from, just the Insomniac suit. But when I was just like swinging around doing missions, I really liked the Fear Itself suit. I don't know why. Maybe just the contrast to the other suits I really enjoyed. And then Spider-Punk. Definitely the Spider-Punk suit. I used that one a whole lot. And then like Eric said, whenever in Miles Morales, they added the one from Into the Spider-Verse. I wore that all the time. Like even them incorporating like him on the phone and then the effects and stuff like that. I was like, God, this is awesome for, whenever a game, we have so many games that just ignore their community. For Insomniac to just be like, yeah, we'll give you that one, was, it's great. So the great thing is that there's just so many suits for everybody, and man, they are upping it to the 10th degree for the next one, and I cannot wait. But yeah, Fear Itself and Spider-Punk for me.
Yeah, my first playthrough, I played as Spider-Punk a good bit, just when I was like taking down bases and stuff. I loved the special attack that he did. And then I played as the Stark suit a lot, even in cutscenes and stuff, because I was similar to you, Phil, where I didn't want to be wearing something ridiculous like the freaking Ghost Rider looking one, if I'm in a cutscene. But I would just go back to a more traditional Spider-Man, like the Stark suit or something. I didn't always go back to Insomniac's. And then when I replayed it, they have the suit from Far From Home, where it's the Stark suit, but everything that's blue is black. And that that's basically perfection for me. It's like just a hint of the like edgy, with the black colors, but still very traditional. I like that one a lot. But then the Black Cat one, the stealth suits, anytime he is kind of in all dark or all black, I like that too, hinting towards that symbiote suit. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch that are silly. Like when I beat the game, I'll play a lot of it as the like comic book one, the like cell shaded Spider-Man, and it looks ridiculous, but it's so cool that it exists. That was kind of this game's version, I think, of the Miles Morales suit that they put in that from Into the Spider-Verse and in that Miles game where it had like the skipped frames. That was so cool.
No love for underwear Spider-Man. Nobody played through his underwear Spidey.
Isn't that? Oh yeah, he was just in his underwear. Yeah, I was trying to think if that was like the Greg Miller suit, the shirtless Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
They also have the like Fantastic Four one where he's got a bag on his head.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of
Sounds
cool
good.
nods to like those things like from the comics or from like old storylines and stuff, which I appreciate. You talk about like respecting a fan base. It's cool to see them put this kind of stuff in there.
And so
Yeah.
many other Marvel characters too. We didn't even talk about that. Doctor Strange, Daredevil. Yeah, characters we don't. There's the Wakandan embassy in the game too. So much cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the stuff that initially like I would see in the game and I'm like, I do know a lot about Spider-Man and Marvel. And then like I started doing the story missions and I was like, I know nothing about this. So I was like, oh, there's the Sanctum Sanctorum. Like I know what that is. I've seen that
Yeah.
those movies. Like
It's kind of the last thing I wanted to touch on before we move into spoilers and break down the story in depth is kind of top level what we thought about the story. And then who here played the DLC and did you like that? So first, I guess, give me your thoughts on the story. And then if you took it into the DLC, Phil, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I love the story. Just being able to interact and see the people that are so important in his life, not just Mary Jane and Aunt May, but also Dr. Octavius. Seeing those relationships build, and also getting a Peter that's kind of seasoned as well. I'm glad we didn't get like an origin Peter Parker. We know what happens. Uncle Ben's dead. We get it. We don't need that all over again.
Great power,
So,
great responsibility.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
yada. All that stuff. So, I thought it was really great. And then, as we'll talk about here in a moment, I mean, the move they pulled is ballsy. Obviously the MCU has now done it, but like for them to do that, I was like, wow, good for them for being for having the guts to do that, because it's a huge deal. So I enjoyed the story. Also, the inclusion of Kingpin I thought is really, really cool. So I was a little worried, like especially seeing some of the the pre-release gameplay, like we're getting Sinister Six like right off the bat. Remember like what derailed Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man it was too much, but I never felt like that here, and it all felt like it was manageable. Like the 2-on-1 boss fights were cool. They probably would have been cooler if Miles were incorporated in them, so hopefully we'll get that in the second game. But I never felt overwhelmed or lost. So I thought it was solid.
And Eric, how about you?
Yeah, so I never got into the DLC. Again, this was a game that once I put down, I just again had such a good time with it. I just moved on. That's typically how I do most games, but especially games I like. I just don't. I think about the experience positively. I don't jump in anything unless I have to. So this story for the game is my only experience, and it was a blast. I mean, it definitely felt like a Spider-Man story. That's what I really liked about it. It had the things that it needed to have to feel like a Spider-Man story, even though it does juggle quite a bit. I do think it lands more times than it doesn't. But we are kind of juggling several narratives around villains, and some are stronger than others. The one that really is the standout and really the attachment of the whole, really what makes the story work and puts it all together is Doc Ock. So that's going to be my shout out here, is just as a character. That was the character that really kind of put it all together for me. And then, Phil will obviously talk about it the big move at the end, big decision with one of its characters, I also really enjoyed that. That was something that I thought really kind of pulled at the heartstrings. You really felt it.
Enjoyed is an interesting choice of words.
Yes, it was great watching it slowly happen. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the story. Also, we'll just kind of nitpick a little bit. I like the original Peter actor better than the one they replaced him with. I don't know why they did that. That's also a preference thing, but they did kind of change the character look. And
yeah,
that was a negative for me. I'm going to have to get used to that.
Yeah, to be clear, still the same actor. They changed the way the character looks.
Yeah, Yuri is outstanding.
Still Yuri Lowenthal killing it, but yeah, they
amazing.
I don't know what they were thinking with his face. Dylan, what did you think of the story?
I thought the story was good. It definitely took some twists and turns that I was not expecting, whether or not those were because I am unfamiliar, apparently, with the Spider-Man rogues gallery of villains, or because it did not, take the traditional trajectory of a Spider-Man story as I was familiar. I would say a majority of the Spider-Man media that I have consumed throughout my life has been sort of the traditional, origin story, like he gets bit by Spider, Ben Parker dies, he fights either Green Goblin or Doc Ock. Or Lizard, I guess. I know technically, according to Andrew, his first villain is the Vulture, but whatever. Nerd. So
Did I say that?
You told me that.
Oh.
But yeah, I appreciate it as somebody who has mostly just consumed Spider-Man movies, that it was a different story than I was used to, because it kind of kept me guessing to the point where I don't know, Norman Osborn is in this game, it's not a spoiler to say, most characters that from Spider-Man are in this game. There was a point where Norman Osborn showed up and I had some weird visual glitch where he was appearing with a green sheen on him, and I'm are they implying that he is the Green Goblin right now? I don't understand. And Andrew's just just keep playing the game.
Yeah, just shut up and play the game.
Yeah, but it kept me guessing, because it was not the the standard rote Spider-Man story that I have seen several times before, and so I appreciated that about it, and I thought it did a lot of cool things, and it definitely does not pull its punches in the last 30 minutes to an hour of the game. So that was also a big whoa, they are doing some crazy stuff here.
Yeah. And even in the middle of the game, there's that one Miles mission where, his life is changed, that I was like, wow, they're doing basically everything they can in a T-rated game, without pushing it into an M.
Yeah, because there were a couple of times where I was watching it and I was like, is this game rated mature? Is this game rated T? I don't care. I'm an adult. I can play what I want. Don't tell me what I can play. But
okay, we got it.
All right, damn.
But it was one of the, a gang shows up and is just gunning down civilians, and I'm like, is this game rated T? Is this what is going on here?
They're not using real bullets. They're using laser
Magic
tech or whatever,
bullets.
so it's okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, I thought this story was incredible. Coming to it, having played a lot of Spider-Man games and having watched every movie and everything that existed at the time, the way that they kind of remixed a lot of the characters and relationships, and the fact that it was 8 years into Peter's Spider-Man career, all of that was such a breath of fresh air. Yeah, I recognize the name Otto Octavius, but I don't really know how things are going to play out with this version, because they keep doing things a little bit differently. And then, yeah, like we've referenced, they don't hold back in their storytelling and where they go with these characters. And so I thought that was incredible. The ending to this game, the first time I played it, it hit me so hard. And then even when I played the remaster and I knew what was coming, the ending, it just hit me hard again. It was man. And for a superhero game to do that, just with kind of the reputation that they have earned over the years, granted, we've had the Arkham games, we've had some better games now in the modern era, but for a long time, it was kind of just a cheese fest. So for this game to really come out and just deliver a quality product on all fronts, it was amazing. So
we really are in a a golden era of Spider-Man storytelling. When you look at No Way Home, the Spider-Verse films, and then this, yeah, I mean, what they're pulling off narrative-wise is pretty special.
Yeah.
We had The Amazing Spider-Man, which was, all over the place, and then Spider-Man 1 and 2, solid, but the third one, again, just too much going on. So, yeah, there's just people that are in charge of these Spider-Man stories right now are knocking it out of the park.
Yeah. Don't forget about Spidey and His Amazing Friends on Disney Plus, the preschooler show.
Oh, sorry. I have not gotten around. Late to the party, Eric.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, all the seasons.
You have to watch both seasons of Spidey and His Amazing Friends.
Right.
Awesome.
And with that, let's go ahead and roll into our spoiler section here. So we'll listen to a little bit of music from the game, and when we come back, it will be full spoilers for Marvel's Spider-Man. All right, we are back. So it's basically just, story stuff. This is all that. This isn't one of those games where you're not trying to spoil certain mechanics or boss fights or locations or whatever. Like that's all common knowledge. So they kill Aunt May.
Yep. That was a big thing that happened
Yeah.
right at the end there.
And of course it has to be Peter's decision.
Right. Yeah, the whole speech, and obviously they do a great job with building up that relationship the entire time, and then oh man, it was it definitely got to me.
I think what made it impactful for me was the fact that she knew. Like that was the line, right? Like
Yeah.
like you don't have to hide it anymore. Like it was just that intimate moment that was really, really well done. And honestly, you would think I would then be okay with it. Spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home. But
No.
You'd think I'd be prepared for pretty much the same thing to happen there. No, it never gets easier. So I definitely enjoyed the switch up of, the constant Uncle Ben story. And then they just kill the other one off. So it just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Thought we were in the clear, and we were not.
No. But I will say with Spider-Man, one of the things that make him such an interesting character is the amount of trauma and just tragedy that he goes through. He's great. Yeah. He's great. Love that character, but a lot of what puts him together is unfortunate trauma that needs intensive therapy.
Damage.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all about powering through, pushing through it all. And I mean, in this game, we talked about Aunt May, obviously, but then Miles having to go through the death of his father, which is the other thing that, we referenced here. And then at the end, like, this probably has to be the best Peter and Otto kind of like story relationship shift of Otto turning into Doc Ock. Like, I think Spider-Man 2, the movie with Tobey Maguire, did it really well, especially for its time. But
it was like a cool 90 minutes to 2 hours, right?
Yeah, you can't spend as much time.
Yeah, this was like if they blew that out for
you got to watch
hours.
Otto's slow descent into, villainy, but you completely understood like his motives and why it was happening, and then you saw Peter's heart break in the end when he had to put him down, take him out, and then all the things he was yelling at him and everything, which it's hard to say, was that him or was it the chip in his head? Like, it's the whole storyline. That's why Doc Ock is one of the kind of probably top 3 classic Spider-Man villains, is because of that whole relationship and the way that Otto Octavius is not a bad guy really, but he just went too far. And so I thought just the kind of 1-2 punch of the Aunt May thing and then the Otto relationship breaking down and culminating in a pretty brutal fight between the two of them. It was just, that ending just kind of leaves me speechless every time I see it.
Yeah, like the only thing they could have added in was like having Spider-Man have to save Gwen Stacy at the end there too, and that just not going well. Like, so yeah,
that's coming.
There was a there was a lot. There was a lot at the end of this game that was very much like, oh wow, this is really like, I thought it was a good payoff to everything that they had built up to, you know? Like, it still sucked for Peter, but it was very much like, it felt like all of that stuff in the first like 20 hours of the game mattered. I appreciated it.
I mean, when we have so many, and not just gaming, but like our TV shows, our movies, so many of them don't end in a satisfying way. So like when you finally get that after spending, like you said, 20 hours with the character, it's just it feels good. You know, as it's devastated as you are, you're like, man, at least that felt like it. I ended up in the place I was supposed to end up. So yeah, it's tough to do.
Yeah, and a lot of that is to the credit of like the voice cast. We mentioned Yuri, but I mean, when I went back and played the remaster, I did a double check, double take. I was like, that's Laura Bailey doing Mary Jane. I was like, she's doing like you can kind of hear it in there, but also it sounds like Mary Jane. And so, yeah, I think that just the cast and everything, the production value, all of that really aided in, making this such a good story experience. We have the relationship between Peter and Miles and Peter and MJ.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about that?
I've always been a team Gwen Stacy kind of guy myself.
Same here.
I don't. Yeah. It was fine. That's a integral relationship that has to happen. I'm curious to see where that relationship will be in the next one. Yeah, but it didn't really do anything for me. As I would say, out of all of the characters, MJ was my least, not even least favorite. She was just the least interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as somebody who's like seminal like Spider-Man exposure was the Tobey Maguire movies, like it wasn't until the Andrew Garfield movies came out that I was like, wait, who is this? This isn't MJ. Like, I will agree that like of all of the characters we were spending time with, MJ felt like she was just kind of the most, like, I don't think she was a bad character. She was just the most normal. And that wasn't as interesting when you can literally be Spider-Man, And then like Miles had so much more interesting stuff kind of just going on with him story-wise that MJ, it was just kind of like her main shtick in the story was just kind of like, stop treating me like I am helpless, Spider-Man.
You don't spend a lot of time with me.
Yeah. And like, that's, that's fine. But it was also just kind of like, he is literally like super powered. You do realize that, right? Like the things he is doing, it's not like he's just some like misogynistic man who's like, you're not allowed to do anything. You're a woman. He's like, hey, don't go break into this super villain's like drug lab. Perhaps maybe don't do that because he literally can't feel pain. That's his superpower.
Equal rights. Go fight Rhino. That's what.
Yeah.
There's our TikTok clip right there.
But like overall, I thought she was a good character, and like it was an interesting thing where she wanted to be a part of the team, and she wanted him to like communicate with her better or whatever, and like that's fine. It was interesting. It was the least interesting of the stories that was going on in the game to me personally.
I love that scene where it transitions, where you're playing as Mary Jane. I think it's in Norman's apartment, and then at the end, she's like telling Peter basically, "Hey, I gotta go. I'm jumping off this balcony," and she's like, "Where are you? Are you here?" And he's like, "I'm coming. Just wait. Don't do it yet." And she just jumps. I love that scene. It's like, it's fun to see their relationship kind of like this far down. We don't have to deal with the whole like girl next door, the will they, won't they, the her dating other guys and Peter being the pathetic loser and all that kind of stuff. We were able to move past all that at least and get to the point where at least they're having like some pretty normal like relationship problems with each other, but they're in a relationship, they're trying to move forward and understand, like figure out how all this works. I also love, them hanging out in the little coffee shop or whatever, and of course Stan Lee's in there making his cameos. That was great. Yeah.
I think what didn't help, MJ and I also have been a more of a Gwen Stacy supporter, but also, Eric, it could just be an Emma Stone thing.
Yeah, they really did us dirty by casting Emma Stone as really Gwen Stacy. It's not fair.
Haley Steinfeld in the Spider-Verse movies too. She's great.
Right. Yeah, Spider-Gwen. Yeah, so I think one thing that maybe also didn't help MJ as much as well, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I guess the counterpart being Miles and Finn was also more of an interesting relationship to me, as far as like that friendship and for the Miles Morales game. So she just wasn't all that interesting. We also have so many versions of MJ, to compare her to. There's obviously the Zendaya, and then there's the classic. Who is that? Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
So
Kristen Stewart.
Kirsten Stewart. We just combined.
She'd be
a bunch of people.
That'd be an interesting MJ, I guess.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just because I didn't really enjoy those particular sessions of the game, but it wasn't really anything on her. But yeah, I just didn't find her too particularly interesting. But again, that's not really her fault. So.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with, MJ as a character. A lot of her thing is being the damsel in distress. And so I think Insomniac did a pretty good job of maintaining who she is as a character, but like making her matter, like making her part of the team, part of the story, giving her own agency, her own thing she's doing. And sometimes it did feel a little forced, like, oh, I'm going to go do this really reckless thing to get this information because I have to. But it was better than her just, being locked in a cab floating above the city screaming for 20 straight
taken
minutes.
By Doc Ock at a coffee shop.
I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of characters in this game. There's a lot of characters in this game. So, I mean, like, I understand the need to give MJ her moments. As a character in the Spider-Verse, she is a big character, So, definitely deserved her time on the screen. But I felt interested elsewhere. And a lot of that had to do with, like, getting ready to fight a new villain. Like, the amount of villains they threw in this game could have absolutely been too much. And I think at times it kind of is sometimes, like with Mr. Negative. It, I don't know if I didn't hate that part of the story. It was the least interesting one out of all the kind of, like, strings that they were pulling. Although I did like everything they did with Feast, like including that into the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was just like a lot of characters. I love the Kingpin start at the beginning. The Sinister Six thing was cool to get that little glimpse, but there's a lot of characters in this game. So, I mean, everybody has to get their shine, and, there's not enough room for everybody. That's part of the problem.
I thought it was interesting making Mr. Negative like one of the big bads of this game, because he was a character I wasn't super familiar with before I played this game. And so,
same.
Yeah, playing through it and seeing them, give him the spotlight, I thought was cool. And then, of course, integrating him into Feast, so his relationship with, Peter and Aunt May for sure. But then with Miles and how that's going to play into the sequel, which I think, the Miles stuff in this game, I should have seen it coming, probably. But I think up until this point, Miles had always been kind of like the alternate dimension thing, and so him being in this universe, I was like, I mean, what are we doing here? Is he gonna, like, I just didn't really know exactly where it was gonna go until probably, about halfway through the game, you start to get okay, I think they're doing the thing where he's gonna get the powers and all that. But the fact that they like just did that right out of the gate, which I mean makes sense for Peter being 8 years into his career, but it still was like, okay, our first game, and guess what? By the end of it, there's 2 Spider-Men.
Yeah.
Yep. I will say that part was
the spider part
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was just like, how long is this spider just hanging out on Mary Jane's jacket? Like, what is?
Well, and that was the other thing. I was like, okay, we've been playing as 2 characters. One that I know turns into a Spider-Man traditionally, and one that probably in some run of some comic gets spider powers, but traditionally is just a normal human woman. And yeah, that spider was on her for so long. I was like, are they going to give Mary Jane spider powers? Is she going to be like Spider-Woman or something? And then no, it hops off and bites Miles. But I was like,
yeah. Well, and it was getting to the point where we were like pretty far into, I was pretty far into like the game. And I think I was having just like a conversation with you. And I was like, I know nothing about Miles Morales. And so I was like, is he just like a normal dude that has like tech powers? Like, or does he eventually like get bit? Because I felt like I was in Act 3. I was pretty close to the end of the game because he gets bit like pretty much at the end of the game. And I still hadn't seen him. Like, he was still just a normal dude. And I knew the next game was Miles Morales. And so I was like, is he just like a normal dude who like figures out that Spider-Man is like Peter Parker and like is kind of smart, and so he invents all this like tech stuff and gives himself quote unquote powers, and then the spider hangs out on Mary Jane's jacket
for an afternoon,
like an entire stealth section, a jump off of a building, and then just like a whole afternoon / maybe more just hanging out, and eventually finds its way to bite Miles. And I was just like, okay, I guess that works. I guess that's how Miles gets his powers in this universe. So
it had gotten comfy, man, when it found a place to settle in. And
yeah, I felt like that wasp at the Jaguar.
I mean,
yeah,
there was this wasp. Sorry to go off topic. We were sitting next to this guy, and this wasp just ended up on his hat.
It landed on his hat and was like taunting us for a good portion of the
and
game.
I'm terrified.
It would not move.
Of wasps.
Yeah,
bees in general,
good.
but definitely wasps. And it sat on that hat for probably like almost a whole quarter.
We were like, is it gone? Is it gone? Yeah.
You didn't
Thanks
tell
for
the guy
derailing us,
you weren't
Aaron.
like, you were like, hey, dude, you have a wasp on your head.
No,
You know?
I was in fucking
No.
fear. I was frozen in fear. I was just so frozen.
Yeah.
I was so scared. And Phil wasn't going to say anything either, so.
No, I wasn't going to say anything to him. No.
Wow.
because then he's gonna just come closer to you with his wasp head, and
Right.
you know,
Right.
he's like, "What'd you say?"
Shake it off, and then it's going to
Yeah.
come to attack us. So,
Exactly.
no, wasn't going to have any part of that.
Yeah. Well, Wasp is not a character in this game, but what were some of your other favorites?
So you guys all know the Spider-Mans more than I do. Who are the Sinister Six? Because before this game, I would have assumed it was Green Goblin, Doc Ock,
Green Goblin's
Lizard.
he's not a Sinister Six member, is he?
No.
No.
Mysterio. Like, I would have assumed it was like that kind of group, like Electro and Rhino.
Yeah.
And so they were like, "Oh, it's the Sinister Six," and I'm like, "Who are these people?" Like,
Yeah.
most of them I
Electro-
just knew as Marvel Snap cards.
Yeah.
So
Electro, Rhino, Doc Ock, Vulture.
Scorpion.
There's two more. Scorpion, and who's the last one? Andrew.
Mr. Negative was the last one in the game.
Yeah, I think it depends. Like, I think it's just 6 of like his better known, because I'm looking at like Wikipedia, and they have like
changed up for sure.
yeah, they have lists of like who.
It's like the Avengers or whatever, I'm sure, where it's
Different-
like kind of a
different
rotating
incarnations.
cast.
It seems
Yeah.
like Doc Ock, Vulture, Electro, Rhino are all pretty consistent, and like this list has Sandman and Venom taking the other 2 slots.
mhm.
But then
Sandman.
yeah,
Yeah.
then another one has like Mysterio and Craven taking the slot. So
Craven.
So your Wikipedia fact of the day, it says the original Sinister Six was Doc Ock, Electro, Craven, Mysterio, Sandman, and Vulture.
See, that sounds a lot closer to like the 90s cartoon that I watched, and that was who I was expecting when it said the Sinister Six were here. Not that it was bad, you know, I definitely like had a fun time, but it was kind of like there was a lot of me being like, this person was not in a Sam Raimi movie. Like, who is this?
The real Mysterio isn't in the first game, right? We see somebody dressed up as
no,
him,
you
but
just
he's not in the game.
yeah,
right?
you just see somebody dressed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the Sinister Four, but with a couple rotating cast members.
Yeah. Featuring.
Yeah.
Sinister 4 featuring whoever
Yeah.
is whoever's in this week.
I would also like to just kind of like it's not a dig against the game. It's not like a bad thing, but also Avengers Tower canonically exists in this game.
Yes.
And you're telling me that all of Rikers and all of the Raft, a supervillain prison, broke out and escaped, and the Avengers were just like, nah,
We're on the
All
West
right.
Coast.
They were on the West
No,
Coast.
we're-
yeah,
You
They're
didn't,
on the
you
West
didn't
Coast.
catch that?
It tells them that.
no.
Yeah, he said they're on
Were
the West
they
Coast.
on the West Coast?
Yeah.
Well, what's Doctor Strange doing? What's Jessica Jones and Daredevil?
I was going to
doing?
say, yeah, you do.
What are the Ninja Turtles doing?
You do have like Daredevil's law firm and all that, and Daredevil's all about Hell's Kitchen, so yeah, he should have
Yeah.
been there. And
For
that's
sure.
always the problem when you kind of like
Luke
reference
Cage,
Yeah.
the larger Marvel universe, but
Iron Fist.
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of them there. Yeah,
Yeah.
Not.
Like it didn't pull me out of it at all. It was just one of those things that as I was swinging around as Spider-Man, like in that back quarter of the game, getting like sniped at from the rooftops, I'm just like, where is Daredevil? What is he doing right now? Like, come on.
Trying to find his way out of his apartment or something. I don't know.
Right.
that was the cool thing about one of the games we referenced earlier, the oh man, I can't remember the name of it now. Was it Web
Sunset
of
Overdrive?
Shadows? No, it was
Shattered
it was
Dimensions?
no, it was the one where basically the symbiote caused like a zombie apocalypse. I think that was Web of Shadows.
That's the one with that's the one with Wolverine.
Yeah, and so in that game you do kind of like pair up with Wolverine and stuff and do things with like if some of the other characters. Luke Cage is in that game as well. I did kind of like things that happened like that in some of the older games, but I'm pretty sure Insomniac has said that they don't want it to kind of get that big. They want to keep it,
Yeah. They wanted Spider-Man.
focused. Yeah, on
Yeah.
they like to
people were
reference it.
wondering because people were wondering if the Avengers game was connected to. The
Oh yeah, if they were
Spider-Man
like in
game
the same universe, and they
initially,
said
yeah.
no.
So nope, keep that away from us.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, they
interesting to
are
see if
making,
Wolverine. Yeah, if Wolverine will be connected. We'll see what they do there.
Right.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about is kind of the post credits, the ending stuff with the symbiote, because this whole time in this game, Harry has like left Peter recordings and these little science things on rooftops for some reason for him to finish doing his little experiments that mean old daddy
Yeah.
Osborn didn't want me to do because they didn't make the company money. So let's do them together with your spider powers.
And the whole time he's signing in, I assume he's signing in with like Peter Parker's like PIN code. And I'm just like, are there no cameras here? Do they have no security systems in these like Osborn $1 million things where it's just like, he used Peter Parker's code, but Spider-Man walked in. That's so weird. I wonder
We should
if
ask
the two are
Peter.
connected.
He might
If
be
he
using
saw
Harry's
him-
code,
That's true.
which still they don't have cameras. Like,
Is
why
Harry
is
Spider-Man?
Why is Spider-Man up there doing
Right.
our chores? But the main thing is that Harry's not actually physically there. He's referenced
Yeah.
a lot, but he's not there. And then you come to find out
They think he went to Europe.
Yeah,
Like
right.
that was the story he gave
they
them.
think
And
he's
so
on vacation.
Mary Jane and Peter are like, oh, okay. Like, well, because his mom passed away sometime semi-recently, it kind of sounded like.
Mhm.
And so, like, within the probably a few years. And so it sounded like he kind of was like, I'm just going to, like, move to Europe for a bit and get my life together.
Rich kid stuff.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
But turns out he's actually like got some super rare disease, and he's in the like back to tank from Star Wars getting healed, but the magic that's healing him is symbiote. So that was where the game left off, and then of course Miles Morales didn't touch on any of that. This is, this is core story stuff. So I kind of want to do something that I think we'll enjoy doing right now in the moment, but will become outdated almost immediately. Like, what do you guys
Yes.
think is going to happen in the sequel? Do you think that Harry is Harry Venom in that game, or is Harry just like the conduit for how symbiote enters the world? I've heard people like speculating that the symbiote's going to get on Kraven and Kraven will be Venom, or, what do you guys think? Do you have theories on this? Have you thought about it?
Because we know for sure it's not Eddie. So that we know.
How do we know that for sure? Just because they haven't introduced him?
Well, I guess
I think-
haven't they said that in like they confirmed it?
I think
that
there was an
going to go a
official
different way?
statement.
Okay.
I'll double check, but I think
I
there
would
was an
believe
official
that.
Wasn't Eddie
statement.
Brock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Just the way that the first story went, it seems like if it's Harry, that's too easy. Like I don't think they would go.
Yeah, like
That
it was
route.
intentional misdirection.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Eric, I know you had an interesting theory. I believe a few months back, but we've I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about, but I mean we've seen Venom fighting Peter, so I don't think it's.
Oh, you thought maybe it was Peter Parker?
Isn't that? Didn't you say something along those lines?
Probably. I'm gonna take credit for it.
I mean, I had heard people talking about how like, oh, it's gonna be Peter like fully giving into the symbiote and becoming Venom, and then Miles is gonna have to like pull him back out. I think we're gonna get that conflict, but I think it's just gonna be Black Suit Spider-Man because it would be very. I think it would be very uncharacteristic for Peter to let the symbiote go that far. That's kind of the whole thing with the suit is like he's dealing with that internal conflict, but it never goes that far. So, I mean, I think it would be Insomniac likes remixing the characters, but I don't think they would straight up make Peter Parker Venom. I think Venom's going to be once Peter gets that suit, like once Miles knocks some sense into him. Because it seems like you're going to get the black suit really early on in the game.
Yeah.
And then Miles will probably have to give him an attitude adjustment, and then that's when Venom comes in.
It would be interesting for them to introduce a character we haven't met yet that isn't Eddie Brock, and I did confirm that Insomniac specifically said it won't be. It'll be a character that's different from what we've seen in the comic shows or the movies.
Be a Flash.
Gwen Stacy.
Have you seen Flash?
I don't know. Maybe Mary Jane. Who knows?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a male though, like cause I'm just thinking of the movie. They made Venom more like feminine when spoilers for Venom when that happened. So I don't know. I would just assume sticking with that, it's probably going to be a male.
Sticking
character.
with the Tom Hardy Venom movie. That's your
probably Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
That's
just introduced Tom Hardy.
I think Eric's 100% right. It's Tom Hardy.
What's his guy in the chair? What's his name? Genki. Genki?
Yeah, it's Genki. Well, they have been making a pretty big deal about like how Miles is still dealing with Martin Lee and like his kind of trauma with that, and reconciling how to move forward, knowing that he's still alive and stuff. So I wonder if maybe Martin Lee gets the symbiote,
and maybe Norman. I mean, it could be.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
It could be a different Osborn than we're thinking. I definitely. I mean, Harry Osborn would be fine for me. Like, it would make sense narratively, but I think everyone's thinking they're gonna take a turn here.
It would be very Arkham Knight if it's Harry. We'd be like, yeah, well, we saw that coming.
Yeah.
So.
That is pretty non-traditional though, right? Like Harry's not typically Venom. He's usually Hobgoblin, so.
And I'd like to see a Hobgoblin. Okay, that'd be cool.
I like your theory of Martin Lee though, because I could definitely see it being like if the symbiote with Harry is intended for healing, then like a negative version of that would be destructive or something like that, and so maybe it's like a Mr. Negative version of whatever is going on with Harry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, all I know is I can't freaking wait. I'm so excited to dive into this game. I haven't been this hyped for a new game in a while, so it's gonna be a good weekend.
Since last year's Elden Ring, actually.
Yep, probably so. Yeah, Elden Ring was probably the last one. So
it's crazy too because like we haven't. I mean, obviously between Miles, but because we had Miles Morales, it doesn't feel like it's been that long since we've been in this universe, which is great. I mean, I hope they do that again. Give us another Miles spinoff for $40.
Give us a Spider Gwen spinoff for
right.
There you go.
Like Gwen Stacy's.
Get rid of MJ.
Well, you don't have to necessarily do that, but
nope, gone. Get rid of out.
So is there anything else you guys want to touch on in spoilers? You want to make sure that we mention before we move out and give our verdicts?
I think we covered it. Anyone else die in the game?
Right.
I think we covered them all.
Yeah, I think we covered the major plot points. So
yeah,
I think
just another question for the Spider-Man people: is Silver Sable an actual character?
Yes,
or was she created for this game?
No, she's an actual character, and that was actually good.
She was the only one I was just like completely unfamiliar with. Like everyone else in the game, I had at least heard of, and I was like, I am not. Well, her and whatever the social media villain was, I had no idea who that was. But
it's okay.
Like those two, I was like, I've never heard of you as like villains in Spider-Man before. So
Screwball was in the base game. I thought she was just DLC.
She was like one or two missions,
I'm pretty sure
she had like a side mission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The worst.
Sable hasn't been a card in Marvel Snap yet, so that's why you don't know who she is.
Correct.
But
is Taskmaster going to return? Maybe it's maybe Taskmaster plays a bigger role. I don't know.
So another character that we didn't really talk about that much is Yuri, the police. She's
Yuri
like an agent or a detective or somebody that helps Spider-Man. She's kind of his ally on the inside. The DLC focuses on her a lot, and she kind of like snaps and gets really mad at some stuff that happens in the DLC and goes rogue a bit. So I'm curious to see if she's in the sequel, how they like pick up her thread, all that kind of stuff. That was probably
Oh, do you not know? Okay. I don't want to spoil it if you don't know.
About Yuri?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know.
Was it in the DLC or was it in like?
No, it's in one of the. It's in one of like the previews for Spider-Man 2.
Oh, gotcha.
So if you're like paying attention, you can see what happens.
So the other character that was in the DLC is Black Cat, and she kind of vanishes in the DLC. So I don't think we'll see her back, but we might.
Damn.
I know.
I was gonna say, you don't think she'll at least be like leaving Spider-Man little cat figurines?
I mean, maybe. I hope so, but
yeah. I did appreciate about this game that like there was a lot of stuff on the map that you could do, but it slowly populated over time so that it didn't feel as overwhelming. Because it could very easily have just been like, here's all this crap to go do. Like, go do it. And that would have been a lot. But slowly discovering things like through a series of side missions was like, oh, okay, this is actually kind of cool. And none of them felt like I have to get 273 Riddler trophies, Like, it was like, no, you have to catch 12 pigeons and that's it. So,
yeah, nice. That's a good place to wrap it up. Pigeons. So
the pigeons.
Let's go. We'll take another quick break. And when we come back, it will be time for our verdicts. So the way that we do our verdicts on the podcast and our YouTube channel is we use the classic letter grade scale of A through F. But above A, there is an S grade, and S is masterpiece, and F is hot garbage. So with that being said, what are we going to give Marvel Spider-Man? Eric, why don't you kick us off?
Back in 2018, I probably would have given this an S, but kind of as time has gone by, and we've talked about it, and just some of the things they didn't quite get to perfect, I'm gonna give this a solid A, and I'd even add an A plus in there. If I could just make it very clear, it's like a smidge under, and really, it's a smidge under Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I think is a little bit more fun, but just right under that S tier again. So really, really high A there. And I think if they can clean up just a couple things, an S is around the corner for Spider-Man 2. I'm excited. I've got my hopes up high.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So I'll go next. I would also give this game an A. I think there were some open world things that they trimmed out in Miles Morales. They made finding the random crimes and things like that a little bit easier, more straightforward. It was they constantly, with the remaster and then with Miles, they've been slowly polishing like the rough edges and smoothing them out and kind of making the user experience better along the way. So I think that shows that they had a little bit of room to improve, but man, as a Spider-Man fan, this game gets so much right. And like you said, an S is right around the corner. I just think there were just a couple little sticking points, but like very minor, just enough to not be able to justify an S, but it's a really strong A. Phil, how about you?
Yeah, sorry to kill the suspense. Also an A. IGN gave Spider-Man 2 an 8, which means it's probably perfect.
I can't
it's the
stand.
lowest
oh my
grade.
God.
The lowest grade I've seen from anyone is from IGN.
I hate to interrupt,
so
but did anybody watch the actual review?
I purposefully
No,
did. I stopped watching them until after I played the game.
The summary of it was that it was like the best Spider-Man game so far, and it was an 8.
But it's an 8.
But
it's an
which
8.
is lower than both scores for Spider-Man and Miles Morales. And I know
Yeah.
the person reviewing it is always different, but
Right,
there should
yeah.
just be some type of consistency. That's all.
It's so easy to make fun of
Yeah.
IGN. But yeah, back to you, Phil.
I know. No, you're good. Yeah, A as well. Again, I think they're just right on the cusp of that perfect game, and I think Spider-Man 2 is likely going to be that, with just quality of life changes and incorporating both characters and some twists and turns and surprises they probably have up their sleeves. So, for again, in an age, like I said, where we are in just peak Spider-Man storytelling, this one is right up there with all of them. Like when you talk about the across, I couldn't tell you which of the 4 Spider-Man stories, as far as the 2 animated movies, the game, and then the No Way Home, which one is my favorite, because they're all so good. So A for me as well. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they have planned next.
And Dylan, as the kind of new kid on the block, relatively speaking, and the most recent to play this game, and playing the original version on the PS4 with the good Peter Parker face, what would you give Marvel Spider-Man?
It gets an F from me for being an exclusive, because exclusives suck. But for real though, it's an A. Like I can't. It's a great game. I had a ton of fun just like with the gameplay itself. Swinging around New York City. Like I said earlier, I never wanted to fast travel because it was just so fun to traverse the world and explore the world. And there's so many like cool little nods to like Spider-Man and Marvel stuff that I was able to discover, even as somebody who apparently does not know very much about Spider-Man, as the game has shown me. The combat was a lot of fun. There were a couple of ways that I wish it could have been a little bit different, but like it was good as it is. And just the story that it was telling, at times moved a little slower than I would have liked, but was, a fantastic story overall, and really ended on a low note for Peter, but a high note for the story in general. And so, it was really kind of cool to see all of the characters evolve throughout the story. And so I can't give it any lower than an A. And I think, like you guys are saying, if everything that they're talking about doing with Spider-Man 2 is true, I can't see it being less than an A, if not that S that this game was right on the cusp of. So
Nice. Might be our first ever like unanimous across the board grading. I don't know, but either way, fantastic game. If you haven't played it for whatever reason, maybe you just got into the PlayStation ecosystem, definitely worth checking out. So as we bring this thing to a close, as we wrap it up, this is the part of the show where I want our fantastic guests to plug all their stuff. What's going on over with the Wait For It podcast these days, guys?
Well, quite a bit. I mean, we finally made the jump to 1 episode a week just for our sanity, and it has been great. It's given us an opportunity to focus, obviously, more on just the quality content for episodes, but also putting out content elsewhere, which my co-host will tell you about here in just a moment. So yeah, we still do a Game Room episode every month. So we kept that series as far as on the podcast every single month. So that is still going around, or that is still stuck around. Eric, what did we? Oh, this month we are doing Dead by Daylight, and we'll probably
Nice.
Mix in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we had a blast playing with you guys. So we'll probably mix in some of that, and then just finishing the year strong. I'm excited for our Creator Spotlight series to continue. We just had DJ Awesomeness Prime, who is a local convention DJ, as our guest this past week. So make sure you check that out. So Eric is still torturing me with really depressing international films. So we're doing that. And we also have some good stuff planned for late to the party, which I'm excited for everyone to see as well, Eric.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting stuff. The Game Room, where it happens, is our series, and we'll, of course, be doing Spider-Man 2 for November. So we are already taking off time. We're taking off time out of work to play it. We're going to have the whole month of November to play it, and by the end of it, we will be sharing our full thoughts on the game. So definitely, if you like what we had to say here, give us a follow, check us out. We also are doing a ton of stuff on TikTok, and by we, I mean me, but it's kind of we. So we're working on that and getting comfortable in that TikTok environment. I gotta say, I know you guys were just recently jumping on the bandwagon again. Love the videos, the quick review on Dead Cells. I love the layout of it. So keep doing your thing. It's definitely a grind.
Yeah.
Seriously, when they tell you social media is a full-time job, like, I can kind of believe it. Just kind of like coming up with what to do, what to post, when to post, then just the editing for that. It's a whole ball game, but we're doing a lot of stuff that's outside of our comfort zone. We're now introducing video for our podcast, so if you also want to check out our YouTube page, we've got video versions of our episodes, and we're trying to be consistent with it. So you guys probably have already followed us from your friendly neighborhood gamers. We've had a lot of collabs, but if you haven't yet, what are you doing? Make the jump.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have a Christmas special coming up? Are we going to be invited back? I guess we got to find out if we're going to be replaced.
This is awkward.
Yeah.
You're putting us on.
We also have to plan the 2024
Now that
meetup.
you're here.
Yeah.
2024 Super Bracket Bros meetup incoming. We got to figure that out.
Yeah.
End of the year awards. The wait for it. End of the year awards. What is this year's Morbius?
Who knows?
Oh, I forgot about that. That was amazing. Probably some of the best content you've ever done, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you. I did peak then, so
yeah,
it wasn't great.
No, for sure. If you, for whatever reason, you have not checked out the Wait For It podcast, definitely go do that. And if you want to learn more about these guys and their gaming history, we have an interview with them in our back catalog that you can definitely go check out. As far as housekeeping for us, I mean, we go follow us on YouTube, follow us on social media. Like Eric said, I'm getting back into TikTok a little bit, posting some quick reviews and some clips from the episodes and things like that. But the main thing is to join our Discord. That's where we hang out. That's where our community hangs out. That's where, I mean, people like Phil and Eric are technically in there, although you have to like really try to get them to talk to you. They're,
Yeah, you have to summon.
Yeah, you have to summon
we just
them
started our own Discord. We're trying to figure it out. Give us a minute, okay?
Yeah.
I'm excited because you guys being on Discord means I'm one step closer to being able to finally delete the Facebook Messenger app off of my phone. So.
It's the only way Eric and I communicate, so I unfortunately can never get rid of it. So
yeah. But as far as that goes, yeah, that's what we want to plug the most, probably, is just if you want to come hang out with us, if you want to talk about Spider-Man, if you want to talk about Spider-Man 2 and your playthrough of it and stuff, there's a lot of cool people in there that would love to talk with you about that. So the link for that is in our podcast description. Super easy to find. We'll have links for all of the Wait For It stuff down there as well. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been a blast. Looking forward to the sequel. And that's been our Spider-Man, our Marvel's Spider-Man, got to say the full title, deep dive. We hope you all enjoyed listening to this episode, and we will catch you on the next one.